Kill you all. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Why are you guys anywhere?
We're sort of a club.
Hello, Salem Horror, and greetings, constant listeners. We are the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast from the Consequence Podcast Network. I'm one of your co-hosts tonight, Michael Rothman, and you are Randall?
My name is Randall Colburn.
All right.
We are so excited to be co-hosting this panel here at Salem Horror because if you couldn't tell, our podcast name is a reference to Stephen King's It. And boy, do we have a connection today. We're going to be talking with the original Losers Club from Tommy Lee Wallace's 1990 It miniseries, right in time for its 30th anniversary.
And before we bring in the OGs, because these are the real losers, you know, you've been hearing us for a few years, but we got the real ones here. So, you know, we're not worthy Wayne's World 2, Wayne's World 1 reference. I don't know why I thought it was Wayne's World 2. But anyway, let's introduce our third co-host of the evening, a great guy who's literally in the land of King's Dominion, filmmaker, writer, archivist, all around amazing guy, John Campopiano. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me. Glad to be
Thanks
here.
for being here.
No, seriously. This has been great. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's fall in New England, so you know things are great.
No, I'm officially jealous. So you look like your backyard probably looks like my temporary desktop screensaver when I get on my computer.
Yeah, probably does.
Yeah, you have these amazing photos where I'm like, wow, does that place exist? And it does. It's well, look, we've got some guests to add to this chat, and this is not like a podcast we can just kind of bring in the calls. You're gonna actually see this because you're literally watching us right now. You can see Dale Cooper's in the background with us. It's pretty wild. Let's introduce Brandon Crane. You know, are you there, Brandon?
I'm here.
Oh,
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
How have you been?
I've been good. You know, breathing in some smoke. Not doing that now, so we're good. We're ready for fall.
Yeah. I think we're all ready to get to the fall season and the winter, and I'm kind of ready to close up the doors like Jack Torrance again, even though I'm probably the only one that's going to say that. But anyway.
Also joining us is our favorite Boy Scout, Ben Heller.
Hey, everybody. Yep. Thanks for bringing me in. Good to see you.
Happy to have you.
Happy to have you.
Good to be here.
And another guest, Adam Faraizl. How you doing?
Yeah, doing well. How's it going?
Nice to see you.
Fantastic.
Nice to see you. What is it on your beanie, by the way, actually? What is it?
Oh, it's a Canadian beer company, Fuggles and Warlock.
Nice.
Awesome. Also joining us from Canada is Emily Perkins.
Hello, Michael, Randall, John, and everybody else. Nice to see you. I'm in Vancouver, and great to be here.
I'm totally jealous that you're in Vancouver because all my favorite shows shoot in Vancouver. So, and my former sister-in-law lives out there and just used to send photos. And I'm just like, why don't you here? This looks like heaven. It looks like the greatest place in the world. Is it the greatest place in the world? No?
It is. It really is. In terms of like weather and stuff like that, it's good because climate change is actually helping us. Like we used to get a lot more rain, and now our summers are like beautiful, perfect.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Best of all worlds.
Yeah, great place to be going forward with climate catastrophe.
Well, look, we're all here. This is great. You know, Marlon Taylor, unfortunately, couldn't join us yet. Might be popping up within the hour. Hopefully, we hope. But this isn't the first time you've reunited recently. John, you've got a movie coming up around, and you want to talk about that for a little bit, and basically how all you all kind of hung out together over the last couple of years, last year, and certainly over the last 30 years. But specifically last year, especially with this documentary, talk about that a little bit, John. I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah, so I started work on a documentary back in 2017 now. So it's taken a while, but and yeah, I've been working with a team out in the UK, and it's a full retrospective documentary about the making of the miniseries and its legacy. And I got to know these guys over the course of the last 3 years, working on interviews and then doing some conventions. I've been fortunate enough to travel with them to Europe and appear at some shows with some of my collection, and have gotten to know them over that course of time. So it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
And you've been, I've seen so many videos of, all of you like overseas, in Germany and Manchester. Manchester's one of my favorite cities of the world also.
It's a great city.
It's so good. Some of my favorite music coming out of there. But how were these travels, and, how has your dynamic changed? How did you feel like your dynamic changed, back in, the late 80s when you were filming, the miniseries?
It was surreal, I think, to kind of lead off, just kind of surreal from the start. Like, wow, it's been so long, and there was just, I think, kind of spotty contact between a few people, in the years in between. But for me at least, it was, I don't know if I can really totally describe the feeling, because it was just great. It was unique. I was reconnecting with people that you've shared something with that is like nothing else that I've shared with other people, close people in my life. And so it was easy to reconnect, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Did you stay in touch? Do you have like a text thread? With our friends group, we usually have this like ridiculous text thread. It just keeps on going forever. Sharing like all refaced GIFs and stupid comments all the time about random things, all left and right, with inside jokes to American Pie. But for you, do you have like an emo thread? If you've kept up on Discord or like text, like how over the years have you really kept in touch?
I think the bulk of it is really since John, got everyone kind of collected, but prior to that, I guess was by landline. If you remember that, you would pick up the phone and had this thing that was like, beep, doop, beep, beep, beep. Hey, what's up, man? And left messages on people's answering machines, and that's how long it was, pretty much. And I think Brandon and I reconnected when LinkedIn happened, and that was like
you were in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was like 2005.
Yeah, right
maybe
in that range. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great. You were
that was cool.
You were right in my neighborhood. It was so awesome to just kind of hang out and catch up on old times. Yeah,
super random, great. But yeah, it was. And then yeah, it's been frequent, I guess, in the last couple years. Yeah, for all of us to see each other. It's been nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How would you characterize sort of the downtime when you guys were filming when you were kids? Was there sort of a pervasive creep factor with Tim Curry walking around as Pennywise, or what was sort of, what was it like off camera?
I think it depends on who you ask, right? I think if you ask Tommy Lee Wallace, his opinion might vary from ours. I think our rambunctiousness may have worn thin. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Were any of you coming into the production like scared of clowns? Like what were your fears back then? Like so much of this is about the fears that you fester within your own id. Like what were you, coming into the set, obviously you had your own character fears. What were stuff that you were afraid of back then? And maybe have you conquered that fear since then? Emily, what do you recall, what you things that kept you scared at night, or, in general?
Yeah, well, when we made it, I had not seen very many horror movies yet. I'd just seen The House on Sorority Road, and that really scared me. I think I was like 6 when I saw that. And anything else? Oh, the Ewok Adventure, that really scared me.
The Ewoks scared you?
And and other than that, no, I wasn't really afraid of clowns or anything because I hadn't seen like Poltergeist or anything like that. So yeah.
Well, it's good to know that like if you were literally in the Dairy universe, the King universe, that like Pennywise would have to become an Ewok. Like after you. Like, no! Just
It wasn't the Ewoks that were scary. There was like this giant guy who like, I can't remember what he did, but he killed people or killed Ewoks.
Yeah.
It was a giant. I haven't seen it since I was like 7, so I can't really remember what happened, but it's still this like giant Ewok guy. It scares me to this day. Like this is very, vague.
Did any of the horror that existed in the movie, did any of you guys relate to that? Like, were there any sequences or things that your character was afraid of that maybe bled into your own life a little bit?
I mean, I guess for me, the things that scared me legitimately were like the thoughts of a Freddy or a Jason coming out of the bushes or out of the dark when I'm in the basement or something, when I was a little kid. And so in a way, I guess, and I like the question because I hadn't really thought about applying that to, what you had said there. But I think perhaps, that is a little bit like the werewolf, or the mummy, that kind of thing. But yeah, those horror movies, I believed they could happen to some degree. It took me a while to shake that fear. But other movies scared the crap out of me and still disturb me, like Deliverance.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was like 10 or 11 years old somehow, and I was very disturbed and afraid after that of things. But the list goes on.
Does that pop up in your head like when you're like hiking out in the Pacific Northwest sometimes? You're just like, all right, well.
No, but it would if I was on the Appalachian Trail or in that region, perhaps. A little bit more, it might.
Just waiting there to jump out of a bush for you.
In the Pacific Northwest, we think more about actual predators when you're out hiking.
I'll say, Adam, that scene in the shower, it's hokey in its own way with the shower things coming out, but I will say, when I was a kid, that made me terrified of drains. Like, obviously, Bev has her experience with the bathroom drain, but it was Pennywise coming out of the drain in the floor that like is to me still sort of the defining scary moment of that entire miniseries, and it still freaks me out. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah. I have to say that was one of the 2 times actually filming where it was a little like high intensity, where the actual filming process and everything that was going on actually really felt like it was a bit much sometimes, because there's like Tommy Wiloss giving directions over like this big speaker system, and then like all the noise from them telling the people behind the scenes what to do, and then all the noise from the shower heads and everything, and then me having to memorize my lines and not slip on a wet tile and kill myself actually, although that probably would have been able to use that, fix it in post. But that was a very intense scene, and although it didn't really cross over into my actual life, like I've never been afraid of drains, it's a comment is like, oh, you were that kid? I hate drains now because of you. And I'm like, I keep telling people like, I kill clowns. Like you should be less afraid of them. I don't know. That's the best I can offer.
Yeah. I think there's something about stop motion that really like stuck with me too, that I don't think, I wonder if it is like a kind of scary thing for kids nowadays, if it's just like one of those things where they just haven't, because they don't use a lot of stop motion anymore, and people are just like, kids will just be like, what is that? But for me, it was literally like that. It was like, the scariest part of Evil Dead for me is just literally seeing like the melting thing. Even though it looks fake, I'm just like, what if it wasn't? And that was really happening. And the fucking things are moving around and like the tiles moving. Like it just looks so like plenty of Michael Jackson videos growing up where he's just like the bunny rabbit thing, like scared the shit out of me. I like, great song. Like,
yeah.
Brandon, what about you? Like, what were some fears growing up for you that maybe manifested in your own character, even just beyond the production?
Yeah, no. I had really only done comedy, right? So when I came into this, my biggest fear was not sucking, right?
So you fall into that category of like maybe public speaking a little bit, or it's just like you're just scared of like fumbling in front of like thousands of people or hundreds of people or something like that?
Yeah, like blowing it.
Yeah.
Or just not being good enough, right? Because, okay, quick little history. I think I got fired from a TV show when I was 8. It's all kind of coming to me now, right? So there was this TV series, and we shot 2 episodes back to back, right? It was the pilot, and then what was the next episode? I'm doing a He-Man toy commercial, right? And there's a kid practicing my lines from the pilot we already shot.
You're like, what the hell's it? You're stepping on my shit. Like,
I'm like, what are you doing, man? We shot that already. You know, it's just so like, 8-year-old actor kid trying to flex, What are you doing? Please, we've already shot that. You're not impressing anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it turns out they were recasting my role. So I'm in episode 1, and then it's some other kid for 2 episodes, and then I'm in episode 4 again. Like, we're gonna notice, right? And
Sure.
so there was nothing funny about that show, right? And this is nothing funny about that perceived failure. I mean, my face leaked in the car all the way home for hours trying to process I'm not on that show anymore. Like, wait, I'm still going to be in the show, but only, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like that being a total troll? Like what if they did that on every show? Like they just swapped out an actor every once in a while in a role to see if you'll notice. But the show was so bad, nobody noticed.
It reminds me of like an outtake from the movie Wet Hot American Summer, where it was only an outtake or something they just deleted from the movie, but it was going to be a part where Michael Showalter runs into like the door frame. It's like, hey, have you seen Beth? And then it was going to cut to, I think, Janine Garofalo or Amy Poehler, and she answers, and then it cuts back, and it's David Wayne dressed up as. And then he answers like, oh, okay. And then it cuts back to Amy Poehler, and then it cuts back and it's Michael Showalter again. They were just going to put it in there to see if anyone noticed.
Right.
I kind of love that because I do feel like a lot of like early, like 90s and 80s television could do that, where they just replace the character and it would just be like, oh yeah, look who it is. It's Steve. And we're like, oh, I love Steve. And they don't think that because you don't have DVR at the time. So you're just like, oh yeah, no, that was the guy from 2 episodes ago. But it is weird because I think it's funny that you were saying it was like kind of murky too, because like growing up, I vividly remember going to a private school or trying to go to a private school, and I got denied because there's a person that said I stuck my tongue out at a kid when I walked by. But like, at the time, I did not remember doing that. I was like, there's no memory of that. I don't have it. I didn't do it. And then they're like, well, actually, it wasn't just the kid. The classroom said the same thing. I was like, wait, even as a kid, I was like, the whole classroom said
they're a gang.
Like, interrogation thing with them?
Conspiracy.
I totally forgot about it. Like, it was like a memory that I just didn't have. And so it is. Yeah. I imagine, like, when you look back at your production for this miniseries, are there things that you just don't remember anymore at this point anymore? Because like, I feel like memory at that time and that age is so hard to like hold on to.
Are there scenes you like when you rewatch it, you're like, I have no recollection of filming?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I remember it all. Like once we started getting together again and like reminiscing about old times and having, moderators ask us questions, like it's like, well, oh yeah, that's right, that happened.
Yeah.
I don't think I've forgotten any of it.
Yeah.
Like even being told not to eat turkey sandwiches at lunch because it made me lazy.
Wait, what is that? Wait, who said that?
I remember that story.
It was good. Tommy Lee Wallace asked me to do that. We were shooting in the Barrens, and I remember being on that little bridge. There was a little craft service thing, and he's like, don't do the turkey today. Why? He said, it's making you tired, making you sleepy. Cool.
Wait, Brandon, but do you remember telling Jonathan that I had a crush on him? Because I remember him coming up to me and saying, Brandon says you have a crush on me. And I was like, that Brandon, I'm so mad at you. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. It didn't happen.
I thought you remembered everything.
No, it didn't happen. That's why.
Pretty bold move on Jonathan's part to just come and say that to you. How did you react?
Yeah, what's up with that?
No, Brandon doesn't know. Brandon just makes stuff up all the time. Brandon's a liar.
Speaking of Jonathan, I mean, obviously it's so sad not to have him here. I was wondering what memories you might have of him having been on set and working with him, and what he was like during that whole process.
A lot of good memories, definitely. My first day on set was with him, and so I guess just a quick memory is him kind of helping guide me a little bit, I guess, to doing a job like this, which I had no idea what I was doing really, because it was my first real acting job, and so I just remember him being really thoughtful at that time, and I didn't know what to expect, so it definitely caught me off guard. My perception of being on a movie set like that was only what I saw as an extra, and so that's limited view of it. So to be welcomed like that was very memorable. Mm-hmm. But I could go on about other things. I know everybody else would have some things to say too. So
he was kind of intimidating. Like he was like a real like actor from Hollywood. So just being from like the suburbs of Vancouver, like he said to me, well, I used to overact. Like I had a really bad habit of overacting, but and it took me a long time to get over it. But now I just realized, like, you just like say your lines just like you're throwing them away. And I was like, oh shit.
Wow.
He was good. I mean, he was, as Bill and as an actor, I think he was the leader of the bunch in many, many ways. Mm-hmm. I mean, I looked to him for some things. When we met, we didn't start off on the best footing because across the street from the hotel, there was a liquor store, and every quintessential liquor store had an arcade machine. And I was doing my thing, pumping quarters into this machine, and some jackass kid on a skateboard cruises in, and he takes a quarter and he puts it up on top of the thing. And I look at him and I was like, really? You see how deep I am in this? And he's like, well, if you die, it's my turn. I was like,
Do you remember what game it was?
I think it was Final Fight.
Oh yeah.
I think it was Final Fight. It was a Capcom game for sure. I was like, dude, okay, fine. And I didn't put two and two together until we started working together. Honestly, I that was my first experience with Jonathan Brandis, but he was cool.
So the beginning of your experience with him was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
Yeah. You don't mess with a man's game.
Great. Yeah.
Right. How about you, Adam? What do you remember about Jonathan?
I mean, the fondest memory I have of Jonathan is the day that all of us, I don't know if you were there, Emily, but I know at least a lot of the guys, we all took the SkyTrain to Metrotown Mall. And oddly enough, it's a Brandon story. We're hanging out in the arcade. I agree with Emily. For me, it was intimidating. Like, this was my biggest thing that I'd been in. Like, I'd been in some other stuff before then with some silver screen action, but Jonathan Brown's like, he was a never-ending story and stuff. And like, whoa. So that was the one thing I was like, I know how to be on his level. Perhaps even better than me. Because I rock at video games. So that'll be a good way to connect. And I don't remember, he was probably still competing with Brandon or something. I don't remember what we actually played.
No, he was definitely better at that stuff than I was. He got sick. We had this strawberry milk binge. Because we went to the liquor store together and we got gallons of strawberry cow milk and Doritos. And that's...
That wasn't strawberry milk. That was tequila rose strawberry flavor.
Whatever it was bad. And then that's when I found out that he was a hypoglycemic. too. So yeah, it was. Yeah.
It seems like the liquor store is like really cool to hang out at, like when you're like,
dude, it is. I mean, that's where you go. I mean, that's where I went before school. I'd leave early to walk to school so I could stop by the liquor store and play some video games. I'd hit the place on my way back.
Yeah.
You know. And then I'd come home and pretend to do my homework. It was like perfect. It was ingrained in my and I wasn't the only one. I mean, there's turf wars on those arcade games.
Oh yeah. I think people forget about that with the arcades, is that, you know, with the online gaming, you get people that are anonymous and they're going to say shit to you on like headphones and stuff, but it was in person. I mean, you had to, like, when you were like playing the Mortal Kombat machine and like some guy comes up and he looks pretty cool and he's got a great jacket and hair, he's going to kick ass. You're like, great. And then this guy like defeats me in real life and then also defeats me as Liu Kang. I could just go home and cry. Nowadays, you could just, there's that sort of in real life battle while you're also battling in video game form. That was just, it's totally lost nowadays, unless you actually go to like I don't know what the hell's an arcade nowadays, like Dave and Buster's or Replay or something like that. But like, yeah, there is something missing about that. I do just love the idea that these kids keep coming in to the you know, this liquor store. The owner's probably just like, oh God, like where do they find these arcade machines here? Like, I need to get rid of it.
I mean, I'm just wondering, like, are video games in, say, 7-Eleven, for example, anymore? I haven't paid attention or been into many lately. But I mean, yeah, like you're saying, those are the places that you went to.
So do they still have them on the Vancouver Victoria Ferry? Because I know they did for a long time.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Before I ask my next question, I want to ask you if you...
Nice segue, dude.
I know. I'm very good at that. It's a known on the podcast, I'm the segue king. But I'm curious if you guys have seen the meme of Tim Curry as Pennywise smoking a cigarette wrapped in a blanket under an umbrella from the set. I'm
sure.
To the
yeah.
This is like, it's like one of my favorite photos I've ever seen. And I guess I was curious if you guys have seen that or even used it online.
Or even saw it in person when he was doing it. You're like, man, you're a rough guy.
I was going to say, Emily, I think you mentioned in the doc that you had a lot of memories of him just chain smoking on set, you know.
Yeah. He was just always sitting in his cast chair, chain smoking. And then when we'd walk by, he'd go, with his teeth.
Love doing Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
So you guys didn't have a lot of tender interactions with Tim Curry, I take it? He was mostly in character?
There was, I think, maybe one moment in it, and perhaps it's the moment when of a photograph that I think relatively known with all of us and Tim with a Mad magazine, you know. So, but I mean, perhaps that was. I think my memories need to be jogged a little bit more on how he was, because the thing that I remember the most is actually, you know, when the camera was rolling or, you know, in between takes with him. But that was probably a brief moment. I don't know. What do you guys think? Was there anything else? No.
Tim, you promised Tim not to say anything.
Well, the thing is, I mean, while that might be, I think, I mean, in retrospect, like, oh my gosh, to have worked with somebody like him and been able to, as I was saying, you know, just having those more sharper memories of being on set in between takes and rolling, and being able to observe and learn from him. It was, and Brandon has spoke really, I think, eloquently about that part of the experience. But I mean, I feel like, like I was saying, looking back on it, that one.
It's great.
You know, I mean, I just absorbed some things from him, and I didn't even realize it at the time, you know, as far as that goes.
You know, on the topic of Tim Curry, you know, and I wanted to ask about, like, in terms of scares, like, how much of, like, were you actually scared of him though? I mean, were you genuinely, like, terrified of him, or were you mostly just like, oh, there's Tim Curry, that he's a great actor, wonderful thespian, you know, as a killer clown there? Like, did you actually, you know, as a kid on set, did you actually see him almost as like, there's a killer clown right there, shape-shifting killer clown, I'm terrified of him? Were you genuinely terrified of him?
For me personally, it was a little hard. My mother was taking pictures the entire time, and so when she get them developed, she had taken lots of pictures of. She would sit in front of like the steps of the honey wagon that we were in, and then the makeup trailer was not that far away. And she was always up while I was like changing and doing whatever. But she would get pictures of him. So there's plenty of pictures of him in full face makeup, which he would have to do because it would, take hours for the latex and hair and everything. But he hadn't done costume yet, which is, just slipping on a baggy clown outfit. So there's plenty of pictures of him walking around in full face makeup, but in just like tank top and like shorts and like flip flops and stuff. So it was hard for me personally to be scared of him offset, just when he was, being himself. But the great thing about Tim Curry is how that switch could flip, like when he was actually acting. Because when he was actually being Pennywise, you're like, oh, the shit's serious now.
Yeah.
Speaking of you changing, Adam, I'm curious how you felt about your wardrobe, dressed like a little old man. Was that similar to your own aesthetic in real life?
No, but it's odd that you should mention that. When the first, the new It, the first part of the new It came out, my girlfriend and I decided to go see it, and just as a lark, I decided to cosplay as myself. So we went to Goodwill, and I found like a sweet like blue cardigan and some like old cords and stuff, put together like a fit. The sad thing was, it took me so long to get in the theater. There was basically no one there except 5 other people, so only my girlfriend knew that I was cosplaying as myself. But
Like, what's Benjamin Button over here? That's guys. So like I guess that's a good segue. Like say like with your character of who you're playing, how much do you relate to them? Like did you get this character and you're like, well, really nothing like this person at all, or did you see it on the script and you're like, wow, like there are some things on here that I really truly relate to? Did you have that spiritual connection to the character?
I promise I'll let someone else talk, but I'd read the book before, and my agent was on notice. If this ever happens, I want to audition, because Ben Handscom was me in every single way.
Wow.
I grew up, without a father figure. My mom was like wearing both hats. We were transient. I was fat. Tons of unrequited love. Picked on, bullied. I was that kid. And to answer your question from like 10 hours ago, completing this journey for this movie helped me sort of come to terms with all of that, with all my new homies.
Yeah.
But that I was Ben, like that was me. So I found that quite useful. It was like a great, exercise in acting too. It was all very organic, because this is pretty much me. Except for the clowns and dead dads.
Natural terror. Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, right down to the silent crush. Like that. That's playing out in real life. I always had friends that were better looking than I was. So if I made the mistake of saying I liked this person, then I kiss it goodbye. But yeah, so that was me. I was Ben.
Yeah, right there with you, Brandon. What about Emily? What about you? Did you relate to Bev? Going into this production?
I kind of thought of her as my mother, because my mom's name is Bev, and she grew up in the 50s. She was born in 1950, and she was poor, and she didn't come from a very friendly home. She had a pretty dark childhood. So I felt like I was kind of living out some of the stories that she had told me about what it was like to grow up without a lot of resources. Yeah.
And Adam, what about you?
My mom wasn't overprotective, like my mom in It, but at the same time, she was the one who in my acting career was the one who was driving me to auditions and taking me to do things and telling me to do this and combing my hair and putting stuff in it when I didn't want it and be like, be still, your hair's got to look like this. And so it was, and then at the same time, I was also shy and awkward and tiny and late bloomer. So I was, I was always getting cast for roles much younger, like 3 to 5 years younger than I actually was. So I definitely felt many aspects of that character, and there was like, oh, I get to be the tiny little awkward kid. I can do that. So no problem.
Yeah. Ben, were you a Boy Scout?
I had some time in the Cub Scouts actually.
Yes,
for a little bit.
I did stand for that reason because I was.
What's that?
I was a Boy
Scout. Is that right?
When I saw it, so I remember I always related to you.
Oh, that's cool. Well, good. I'm glad that was a positive influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess from that point of view, there was a little bit of connection with the character, and as far as like the overall kind of bullying thing, definitely when I was a kid, it's kind of like Adam alluded to it. I was always also the smallest one around, and so you get picked on pretty easy. You target, kind of in that way, and that happened a lot when I was growing up and went to a bunch of different grade schools. So I dealt with that in different ways, and I could definitely relate to the Losers Club when it came to that, and sort of, being indifferent enough to it. I think Stan was, at least for the miniseries, but at the same time, willing to stand up when that time feels right, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm well documented on the podcast as Henry Bowers being my favorite character in all of King. So I'm curious, what was it like filming those scenes? I mean, because obviously you've all alluded to some degree of perhaps being picked on or bullied. Were those intense scenes to film? Because they're very intense on screen.
Yeah,
I think so. I think that's a good way to put it. Intense. I'm thinking of like when Henry and Belch had Stan down, flicking his buttons off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I felt the tension, while filming for sure. But those were great guys too. So as far as just like fun to work with at that time. So when the camera was off, I wasn't trying to run away.
They weren't giving you wet off screen or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Was Bowers pretty evil at the arcade machine? Yeah.
Oh no, he was too cool. He was too cool to hang out with us. He and Seth hung out quite a bit, but not with us. But Jared was so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he so committed. Yet, like Ben said, so apologetically nasty. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay if I say this? Are you okay if I act this way? Like, just so gentle, but not unlike with Tim. You say action, and he's an asshole. But yeah, I mean, he was cool. He was cool. I wasn't terrified of him when he jumps me by the bridge. I was so excited to just get to the part where I fall down, because it was an opportunity for me as a budding teenage boy to say, I did my own stunt. Nice. I was interested in racking up the street creds.
It's an intense stunt, I gotta say.
They didn't use it. They used this other guy with a fat suit.
God, you fucking kidding me.
Yeah, it's okay though.
I just love it if like you see you see the dailies or whatever, this little kid, just like storm into Tommy's trailer, just like, you took the fucking shot out. What that for?
That was my time to shine.
You better put that in. I'm gonna be back at the liquor store, and you better fucking let me know if you're gonna be putting that shot in. My ass off to put it in. Brandon, you had mentioned you read the book prior to doing the to the role. How many of you had actually read the book prior to this, and how many of you actually were worried about said scene in the book being in the miniseries before you got the script? Like, it's a very controversial book in many ways beyond said scene. a very adult book.
The Scene That Shall Not Be Named.
The Scene That Shall Not Be Named. That wasn't even. I don't even think it was in the Kerry Fukunaga script, and he's a pretty dark, soul. So the fact that like when you read the book, were you kind of like, God, what are they gonna keep in this miniseries? Like, I mean, how many? First off, how many of you actually read the book? Like, was Brandon the only one that read it? Like,
I started it and was told not to do that. To only read the script at the time.
Don't do that.
Yeah, basically, I was scolded. But no, my agent said, just read the script. Don't read the book yet. Yeah. So I did a little bit, but no, I didn't have enough context about that. However, I had heard about the scene.
From Brandon.
The scene.
Brandon, did you that just knowing all the inside baseball? Maybe read this stuff? Like,
okay, Emily may have something to say about this too.
Oh yeah, there's a time. I can't remember who it was, but someone called me into into one of the boys' trailer, and all the boys were there, and they were like, "Emily, so you know what happens in the book? You have to have sex with all of us." It's like, huh? What? And I was like mortified, and I like ran to my mother, and I was like, okay, you have to let me read the book. I have to know what's coming.
But just to be clear, it wasn't like right now.
Yeah.
Right. No, we were talking about the book. Right?
Yeah.
Just so that's clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We should be clear about that. Yeah. I at no time thought that I was expecting. I thought that perhaps it was going to be in the script.
Right now.
But like, no, there was no actual threat of assault or anything like that.
Great. Yeah, because I just imagine that getting around, or even just little things in the book that aren't in there, that aren't in the miniseries, that you just talking as kids would have been just like, like it's almost like playground chatter. Like when you talk about like spooky stuff that you heard, like that's how I heard about Freddy Krueger. That's how I heard about Jason Voorhees. Some kid on the, we're walking away from kickball. I'm like, oh man, did you see that Jason Goes to Hell? It's pretty scary. I haven't seen it. I'm only 9 years old. How did you see it? My older brother's side. Like, what happens? It's like, well, he's Freddy Krueger's brother, which isn't true. But like, you spread these things on the playground. So I imagine like on production, or on set, this stuff was probably, you're maybe teasing each other a little bit here and there.
That's the main thing I liked about the remake was it took place exactly when we were shooting ours. Yeah. And so like what drew me into that one was the banter between the kids, because that was literally our banter, 90% of it was your mom jokes and who had the foulest mouth and,
who did have the foulest mouth?
Yeah.
Seth, yeah.
For sure.
True character then.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought up the new movies. I'm curious what you guys thought about them, and what was it like to see the story that you told play out for a modern audience. How about you, Emily?
I haven't seen it. I still haven't.
Are the memories just too? You don't want to spoil your memories, or you just have not had the time?
I don't know. I guess I have the time. I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of horror movies unless there's something like I feel like I already know that story. Like it's kind of like I don't want to watch stories I already know. Like there's so many options out there. I want to watch things that I don't know, like hear new stories.
Sure.
So I don't really rewatch stuff. I almost feel like I just already know that story.
I think that's fair. I will just say that my favorite part, and I liked a lot of things about both chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I've watched them both a couple times. They keep growing on me, and there's so many things that I really like about it. But my favorite part was to see Brandon in actually part 2. That was like, gave me the most warmth in my stomach. So
you didn't blink, is what you're telling me.
I had my eyeballs propped open. I wasn't gonna miss it.
I remember we were at the press.
That was super cool.
And I was like, it was like the Rick Dalton meme. I was just like this, oh my God.
That guy.
I'm sure like some kid behind me was just like, what is that kid doing? What's that guy doing?
Yeah, that was so awesome to see.
How about you, Adam? You saw it in your cardigan.
I did. I liked them both. I think they're very different from the original, obviously. I am also not a huge fan of horror. I think my favorite things about it, the acting all around was pretty fantastic, kids especially. But I think my favorite part, obviously, I'm not usually a big fan of like jump scares even when I do watch horror, but I did enjoy the part where Pennywise comes out of the screen when they're washing it in the garage. I thought that was pretty well done because I did not see that coming. Everything else was a little scary, but that one was good.
Would you say that you wish, because the version of Eddie that exists in the modern versions is a bit more brazen and foul-mouthed than the one that you played? Yeah,
he's almost like Richie too.
Yeah, and like, do you wish you got to play that version of Eddie, or are you happy with the little old man that you played?
Oh, I feel like I'm happy with the little old man that I played. I feel like it was a little more distinct. I feel like that was one of the things I didn't really like about the new one. I felt some of the characters kind of blended together a little bit, whereas they were very distinct in the original. No, I'm happy with my old man. Yeah, it was good.
I'd love to, like, went up to like Jack Dylan Grazer and it's just like, look, you think you're a little too cool for school. Kasprak. I'll tell you that right now. Kasprak. Why don't you go
I'm sure he'd put me on the floor if he could. So
with his like skateboard or something like that. Yeah. Well, you mentioned the '80s though, and being able to see it. That, like, what was it like being in the '50s for you? Was there, for me growing up in the '80s and like the early '90s, there was a '50s nostalgia. I was huge into Happy Days, so I imagine, like, as a kid, I was roughly around almost the same age as you. I feel like if I was in that set and I got to see all the 50s accoutrements and, like, the diners and all this stuff, it would have been heaven for me. Like, what was it like for you to be in this era? And did you have any sense of nostalgia for the 50s nostalgia, for it?
I didn't personally, because I couldn't get arrested outside of that era with work, like, because of Wonder Years and a lot of commercials and stuff where it was all 50s and 60s Americana. So I didn't really notice. I think that was the only time frame I was allowed to work in.
Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, I can do the 70s.
Because the one time I tried to do modern in the 80s, I got fired. So apparently.
Have you become Stephen King fans book-wise or anything, like, since you did the miniseries? I know some of you said you're not huge into horror, but are there any other Stephen King books that you guys are fans of?
I know you guys do a Stephen King podcast, but I'm not a huge Stephen King fan either. I think the thing I've read of his that I enjoyed the most was like book 3 of The Dark Tower, and then I think I stopped halfway through book 4. I was like, I can't do another 3 of these.
4.
I mean, to be
4,
quite, to be quite frank with you, probably chose it a good time to jump off there, which is probably going to lose thousands of listeners. For
right.
Well, I disagree with him, so we bounced it out.
But Ben, like, to you, like, what did you go back in the 50s or Stephen King? Like, was there any, like, did you have any connection there for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of like you kind of, I guess, mentioned the same thing that I would have called out probably first, which was Happy Days, and so for me, it was definitely seeing certain TV shows and watching those growing up. And so, but, also family photos and things like that, I kind of had a sense for what that era was, and the music, for example, and I loved Stand By Me. That was one of my favorite, Stephen King movies at the time. I mean, there's so many, and I think I'm guilty of being much more of a Stephen King movie buff than book, though I do love to read, and I have some of his books that I've cracked and shamefully haven't finished, but that's the case with a lot of books.
Like
anyway,
700 pages, so.
What's that?
They're all 700 pages, so it's okay.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, totally. I'll chip away at it. But I think Stand By Me just, that reminds me a little bit of kind of the setting that we had, and those things just stick with you sometimes, I guess, you know.
Yeah. And you I think you live near. If you're like in Portland, you're kind of close to where they were shooting. I think a lot of Stand By Me originally.
Yeah, that's true. I think I later learned that, and just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know.
So, yeah.
What an incredible story.
Yeah. Oh God, it's great. And I imagine that was like, because you were filming this late '80s. It's still it was such a huge cultural zeitgeist. So I imagine that was like a big deal to be like, because that was kind of like what kind of cracked open Stephen King a little bit to be like, well, not just spooky oogie, like we could do like the drama. And that was
a good point.
So yeah, and you got to be like in the 50s with that, so it's pretty great. Yes, but you know, Adam, what about you? 50s for you?
I've been holding on to this, listening to everyone else's stories, but I was fully a child of the 80s. There are pictures of us playing Game Boy on set. I had a computer growing up. I remember playing Atari 2600 on a black and white TV. So the reason this is backstory is when they're filming the scene where I go into the pharmacy to get my prescription, the set was very well done. You know, lots of like old school comic books and like paraphernalia and everything set up there. And I just remember being in that thing and going, man, it's a really well done set. What a bunch of junk in the 50s. Like, glad I live it. Where's like, oh man, everything was like kind of brown, and I was like, man, no, it's good stuff. 80s is good. They have the Cars. Have you heard the Cars? They're so good.
That's the thing that's so fun. It's like, you know, I did want to ask about the 80s. It wasn't, you know, something I was going to initially ask, but like, you know, that era has certainly, the nostalgia for that era has like lasted since it's ended. You know, there was definitely a period in the 90s where I think there was some sort of like, you know, everyone was kind of an asshole about it was like, Miami Vice, come on. But like around like 98, people were like, man, that decade was pretty fucking great. What did you like most about the 80s, and especially at this time period? Like, you know, what do you remember late 80s that you were into at that point? Like, what if you know, you mentioned Game Boy, but also what was in your backpack at that point? Like, what CDs, what games did you have that you might have been talking about on set?
Ooh, on set.
Or even outside of set. It doesn't even matter.
All the time.
Oh yeah, Tetris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would have been probably trying to like push some like Boogie Down Productions or old school rap on people, like, oh, you should hear this. It's so good. You know, Eazy-E, some things with some you know.
There was some Two Live Crew.
Yeah, exactly. And I still listen to that stuff. I love it. But anyway, so that's what comes to mind. Probably not proud of it necessarily.
Yeah.
That's a shame Marlon's not here, because one of my fondest memories is going to his hotel room, and he brought up his Nintendo from California, or I think he was living in California at the time. In any case, playing what was it, pro wrestling, like the Nintendo pro wrestling, where the Starman face and you do the backflip kick. It was good times.
Great. It's wild how universal the Nintendo machine was. Like, I would go to like relatives' house that I've never even met before, and I'd be like, so I guess we're related. And then I'd be like, oh, Nintendo. And we just play Duck Hunt, and we'd be like totally fine. We'd be like best friends in like 5 minutes. Just like, oh, you see the dog? He just took the duck. It's pretty wild. You know, oh, dinner's ready. Cool. So anyway, but yeah, so Emily, what about you? 80s, you're saying Tetris, but what were you listening to maybe back then?
Milli Vanilli. Nothing I could do. Yeah, I was just thinking about how gendered technology was. Like, I don't think like girls today, like they have like cell phone, they have all the stuff that boys have, and back then it just wasn't true. Like, we had a family computer and my brother just dominated it, and that was the way it was, and that was what was expected. Like, what would a girl want with a computer? Like, it was just, it's so strange to think about now because things have changed so much, but that's what it was like in my house for sure. And I think a lot of other girls sort of had a similar experience. Thank God it's changed somewhat.
As we wind down, I I'd love to actually turn it to John, and why don't you tell people watching sort of what they can expect from the documentary and any details you can provide on that.
Well, I mean, we interviewed over like 30 people from the miniseries, cast and crew, a few of which have since passed away, actually. So we're glad that we had a chance to talk to them. It's going to be out next year now. We were hoping this year, but it's been pushed, unfortunately. But I think I've been watching selects and seeing things coming in from our editor, and I think people are going to be really excited, really happy with what's there. And there's been an outpouring. You know, you guys were talking about Jonathan earlier. His dad, Gregory, has been in touch with me for about 1.5 years, and he's really excited to see it. And so, you know, to have the Brandis family excited to see it means quite a bit to everybody. So we're just excited. We have a Facebook page, and, you know, we update it as best we can when there's news to share. But it'll be out next year, and just looking forward to you guys seeing it. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Do you guys still have T-shirts?
Oh yeah, Ben's wearing it. I don't know. I think they're in the UK. Yeah, I think we have a few. Yeah.
These. Oh, so this one's exclusive.
Yeah,
right
I don't
now.
even have one, Ben, if you can believe it.
What? Oh my gosh. Well.
Well, you don't have that, but you do have.
Yeah. You do have some other very rare.
Yes.
Things.
Yeah.
Do you want to digress on that a little bit, John? Because it's pretty wild.
That's pretty cool.
What you
If
have
you
in your
guys
house.
do, yeah. When we were in Vancouver in 2017, one of the people we interviewed was Monique, who is a wonderful costume designer up in Canada, and she, with Tommy Lee Wallace and Bart Mixon, designed Tim's costume basically, and she brought it to her interview, you know, unbeknownst to us. And at the end of the interview, she said, you know, would you like to have it? And you know, it was a very humbling. Like the whole room just sort of froze, and like the rest of the crew just sort of turned around and looked at me slowly, and you know, I didn't know if I was going to get jumped or, you know, what. But yeah, so I have, and actually, so the funny thing about it is the guys have seen it because I've traveled around with them with it. But so this is one of Tim's suits.
Wow.
That they made for him. I don't know if you can see it that well, but
yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a pack of cigarettes and like the
I looked for a little cigarette butt from Tim, but there was nothing in there.
There's like a little like post-it that's like, you know, would love you in home too. Yeah. It's Chris Columbus. You know, do you get spooked out, you know, like knowing that it's there?
It's a little strange. I mean, you know, but no, not really. No, it's I'm happy to have it, and it's been a joy to take it around to shows. I mean, I did a show in Canada with Ben, actually, in Niagara Falls a couple of years ago. London and Manchester with these guys as well.
Didn't it just multiply?
It did, yes. Like a sea cucumber, it butted into another Tim Curry. Anyways,
I seriously thought you were reaching to your right to get the other one. You had one on one side and one on the other.
Well, I mean, so then there's this one.
Yeah, and he did.
That's fair.
Yeah. So Monique called about 2 months ago, and she said, I'm retiring, and I'm closing up my costume archives in Vancouver, and I found another one. And I'm going to send it to you. And I said, okay, let's do it, you know. But just incredibly generous, you know, to think that she would, you know, trust me to keep these things. And when she gave me the first one, I gave her a hug, and pre-COVID, you can hug people. I miss those days, but I gave her a hug, and she whispered in my ear. She said, "If I see this on eBay, I'm going to kill you." And I said, "No worries of that, obviously."
You know, when John mentioned this idea to us, I got to be fortunate enough to talk to him for about 2 hours back in July. I was just so excited. Oh my God, look what it is! Marlon! Oh my God!
Let's start over.
All right, here we go. Start the clock. I'm gonna do this all again. Yeah.
There he is.
Hello. I'm Marlon.
Hey, Marlon.
What's up?
What up, dude?
What's up, Marlon?
I'm good. How are you?
We're just wrapping up here.
Are you for real?
Well, we are here. what was your one memory that you take away from it? From this whole thing. When you think about the production, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Pool party.
The pool party.
Pool party.
What you gotta go in. What happened to the pool party?
Well, the hotel that we stayed in had a pool. So we used to kind of just always kind of go down there and hang out whenever we could. And there was one time I think we were having way too much fun down there. And we got kicked out of the pool. So just mainly hanging out with these guys, man. It was really fun. And I think that's pretty much what it was. It was just being around these guys and then just kind of different amount of trouble we would get into. Like, I think that was the most fun that I had. That's my memory right there. All the trouble that we got into and all the fun that we had.
So both the 90 miniseries and the new remake, they all have two parts. So,
yes.
Why don't we make this?
There you go.
Chapter 1, chapter 2.
Two-part.
I don't think Salem would have a problem with it. And
Boom!
So there we go. It's been 27 years since we last talked. We're going to stay on theme. The last time we did talk, Marlon, you had just hopped on and you had teased that you just got into some trouble on set. And I kind of wanted to digress on that a little bit more and hear if you can maybe share a few memories of the times when you were troublemakers.
I think we get into this a little often. I think we all know about the infamous white BMW with the sunroof, not the sunroof, but the top down and the red Slurpee, cherry Slurpee, I guess it would be, on the interior.
What happened with the interior?
Oh, well, the interior went from being white to being red stained due to the cherry Slurpee. But like I said, it wasn't us. It was an accident. It wasn't on purpose. No one actually reached their hand over the balcony and released their fingers and dropped the cup.
Yeah, and they weren't looking down over it with one eye open. For sure.
Life imitating art in that one.
It was a beautiful thing.
So you're basically, I imagine this is an overpass of some sort.
No, hotel window.
A hotel window, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why the trouble came, because it was easy to be spotted.
I saw 7 kids running around.
Or 7 backing away from the balcony at one time.
Can we all agree that this was Seth's room, by the way?
Yes.
So there's that threshold where you're like, this is a bad idea. Let's do it.
It is.
And it was really easy to cross over. But I just remember feeling, we're in this big F-off hotel. There's no way they're going to know who we are. There's so many balconies, so many windows. And you can bet the person who called is like a professional, police informant, because they're like, I believe that was the 7th floor, the 3rd window on the right. I mean,
either that or they just called the front desk and they said, we have Americans in the hotel.
Bob Hope was staying in that hotel at that same time too.
Everybody loves Bob Hope.
It could have been Bob Hope.
You should have blamed Bob Hope for that.
It's Hope. Are you nuts?
But then I'm sure they brought out their ballistics team, because all they had to do was, what I mean? All they had to do was look at the trail of Slurp on the side of the building, and then they go.
It stopped right there.
This was falling at 96 kilometers an hour, so it could only it didn't reach terminal velocity, so it must have come from the 7th floor. That's what I'm thinking happened. Blood splatters. The Slurpee splatter expert came out and was like,
well, the balcony is always just asking for trouble, because I mean, even growing up, I would tie action figures or on strings, and if people were either reading books down, on different balconies, I would try to scream at Spider-Man with and you're onto it. Not real, like not in my head. I just wouldn't realize all they had to do was look up, and I can't pull that back fast enough. So I'm just like, they look up, they see that they grab the action figure from me. I'm just like in this tug of war, and I'm pulling on it. You could have the action figure. You know exactly where I live.
There was a perceived mutiny, right? That I don't think we were taking it that far, but the Dick Tracy movie was supposed to come out, right?
Oh yeah.
You heard this one then?
Yes.
So Dick Tracy was coming out, and so we all got tickets, and we ended up having to work and miss the screening, and we were all like noticeably pissed off about that. And I mean, what kind of an asshole, you know, is mad because they're stuck working on a movie set?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're gonna. Anyway.
Well, you couldn't be working on a movie set and can't see another movie. I mean, come on.
So they were really cool, but it was a big deal. But they rented us out a theater so we could have a private screening. That was super cool.
Yeah.
But I think those of us who were, you know, immature enough to whine certainly looked bad. I'm sure we looked like little spoiled Hollywood kids. You know, but we were just kids. We wanted to see Dick Tracy.
I have a very important question about Dick Tracy. Did you like it?
I don't even remember it.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, does it even hold up today? Like, if we watched it today, we'd be like, oh, that was a waste of energy.
Dick Tracy was like my favorite movie when I was a kid, and then they did a screening of it at a theater by us in Chicago a few years ago, and I have to say, at least for me, and maybe a lot of nostalgia was clouding it, but man, it held up for me.
Yeah.
All right.
We all had you know, when you got the tickets to the midnight screening, you had a T-shirt, you know, that admit one, and it was Dick Tracy T-shirt.
Yeah.
And I remember drying off my car with it not long after. Like, it just wasn't a big deal. Like, but it was nice to be with the peeps and
I do
watch a movie.
That you'd be on set and you're like, I got to see Dick Tracy, and they're like, what are these people looking at Dick Tracy for? And you're like, Brandon's just like, you know, I loved Warren Beatty and Reds.
That's right.
I gotta see this fucking movie, The Talking Watch. It was a big movie though. And like it was like right after Batman, and I think Warner Brothers tried to make it like Batman, or maybe not Warner Brothers, but someone tried to make it like Batman. It was like, this is gonna be the next comic book movie. It was huge, and I do remember seeing it as a kid, just being like, all right, where's the action? A lot of yellow here.
There was plenty of action for me.
A lot of yellow. The style was cool. I appreciated the style, but that's all I really seem to remember. The song was forgettable, even though it probably won the Academy Award that year. I don't know.
Yeah, Madonna. Well, I mean, outside of you know, the Dick Tracy screenings and getting your own personal screening on there, what were some other things that maybe you did together, or back, you're like, man, we were really fortunate enough to be able to do that?
I do remember something, and I'll shut up, I swear. But do you guys remember when we were in the Barrens and we had that actor playing the policeman?
Oh yeah,
Officer Nell. Yes. That guy was pissed at us. He went on a tear. Like they're doing his close-ups, but for continuity and eye line, they had us all kind of wrapped around the camera. Unless I'm high as a kite and remember this wrong.
No, this is correct. Yeah.
So he's there and he's got to, you know, do the thing. And we're kids. We're bored. This is not our turn. We're stand-ins for right now. Like, we could have been replaced with tape. Tape. We were tape. And so we started cracking up. You get like the church laughs.
Yeah.
You get all that. And we couldn't stop. We couldn't stop. And I'm sure this was also Seth's fault.
Yeah, you're forgetting the most important part of why we were laughing. That's because when the police officer's up on top of the bridge and he's like, what are you kids doing down there? Someone, it could have been Seth, it could have been Brandon, was like, masturbating.
No, not me.
That was you?
No, I'd never even heard of it.
Really?
No.
That is burned into my brain, and that's why everyone was like, and that's what tipped everything over the edge.
That had to be Seth. That had to be said.
May or may not
There's no
confirm
way.
that in the documentary. So we'll, yeah.
Hey, did he like yell at you guys specifically, or was he just like rolling his eyes really hard?
Oh no, he pitched a fit. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was mad, and he brought up Shakespeare.
I don't remember that.
He brought up the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, or it was like the Central School or Lambda. One of the three he brought up in his training. He's from Ireland, expat. Let us know where we stood in the realm of professionalism.
Realm of acting.
We were totally unprofessional, and he made it quite clear. But the difference is, we got to come back the next day.
And he had to go back to Shakespeare. Oh God! Was there anyone in the at least in the kids group that was like, all right, guys, we need to let's get real. Like, was there anyone that like bound together? It was just like, you're going too far.
You know what? The Irish policeman's got a point. We need to chill.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Was there anyone in the friends group that was
me?
That was you?
Yeah, I was about to say.
I didn't understand most of the jokes. I didn't understand the vocabulary. I was operating with a whole different lexicon. And like when we went to Dick Tracy, even my mom was like, why did they choose such a violent movie for kids? And that Warren Beatty's such a womanizer.
That Warren Beatty.
I had no idea. You guys got us in so much trouble. And then you guys got to go back to LA after working with that Irish actor, but I saw him many times and worked with him after that. And we had to like pretend that I didn't know him or I'd never met him before. And I was like, oh God, very embarrassed. Although I was not the one misbehaving.
So we left you to hold the stick.
Yeah,
right.
It's true. I remember Emily being a grounding kind of force for us. I mean, she was always very
it's easy not to laugh when you don't understand the joke.
Right, but looking back, I felt totally self-conscious because I know that like there's a scene in particular where it's when I meet you, I grab you, you're crying by the bush, you know, and I come up there and I just throw the line away like it was garbage. Well, if you don't know what you want to do, you come list the Barons. Is it lunch yet? She's sitting there crying. She's like, my dad just hit me in the mouth. And she's like so into it, you know? And I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, over Actors Anonymous.
That is such a realistic portrayal of a boy. Like, it was spot on.
Then we're all over actors.
No compassion. Just like, what's going on here? You want to come hang out in the forest? Yeah.
No idea what the hell he's doing there. Yes, typical boy.
Well, if Emily was the grounding presence, when you guys were all hanging out off camera, was there somebody who sort of emerged as maybe a ringleader, like somebody who was sort of the glue holding you all together, the person who said, let's go here, let's go here?
I mean, I remember that's a tough call. I have to think back on that a little bit, but definitely I remember there were times where like I felt a little bit responsible for influencing people to do certain things like jump off sand piles in our wardrobe, for example. And I have pictures to prove it, but it was a lot of fun in between takes. Some of us thought, though I do remember getting in trouble for that. Like, no, don't do that. You're getting dirty.
It was fun.
From the wardrobe people, I remember. But so I definitely remember, you know, being an instigator a few times. There were a few things I can recall, but I don't remember too much about. You guys have to help me with that. Maybe Seth was a little bit more in the driver's seat sometimes, but.
Like I feel like with any group, even with diehard group of friends, there always are like pairs that form. You know, like so and so are always hanging out outside of the group, or like even when the group gets together, you're always going to be expected to see X and Y show up together. And did that happen at all naturally?
I know Seth and Jared hung out a lot.
Okay. Maybe because they were closer. They were older than we were.
Yeah, and I remember not being cool enough to join them on a few occasions. I probably still am not.
You know, but outside of that, I don't remember like just pairs, or just, you know, I know most of those guys were there before I got there. I think a lot of them were there when I kind of got there, so they had already been kind of working on some stuff. On some scenes and stuff. So once we all got together, though, it was, you know, pretty awesome. Pretty there all the time. Well, not all the time, but consistently, everybody kind of showing up, call time.
Yeah. Well, how was that for you? Like coming in later, like, did you feel like that catch up process for you? How did that work out for you?
I didn't know what to expect. And so we kind of had school. We had to finish school. I still had like 2 weeks left of school when I got up there, so I still had to do a little bit of that before I even made it on to set. And then they started me out with these guys in the classroom. I believe that might have been the first scene that I did. I don't remember if it was that one or if it was the one with Jared. It was interesting. Most of the scenes that I had were kind of a lot of the scenes that I had to audition with. So they were very familiar. So I mean, it was wasn't a long stretch to catch up, but it was a decent little run.
Was there ever moments where you felt starstruck? You know, coming onto set with everyone, where it didn't maybe freeze you up, but maybe you were kind of like almost pinching yourself a little bit, being like, I can't believe this is fucking happening.
Yes, I don't know about the starstruck part, but yeah, just about that. I can't believe this is happening. It was the first like really, really big project that I had done, and then just kind of being in something with all of the adults that I had kind of watched on sitcom television all through the 80s anyway was really awesome. So that was cool.
I'm curious about that. Did you guys get to spend any time with sort of your adult counterparts at all?
For me, not necessarily at that point, but about 3 years later, I got to work with Tim Reed again on Sister Sister.
Oh, cool.
That's right.
Cool. And, you know, he remembered me from it and all that. And we got to chat it up, got to meet his wife, and that was pretty cool, just kind of working on another project and something a little bit funnier versus something, and then kind of being like right across from each other and working together versus being the same person in different, in different scenes. So that was super cool as well.
Yeah.
Which is on Netflix right now. So everybody.
It is.
Get those residuals.
My girlfriend binged all of it when it first hit. So we're now like, what do we watch next? Like,
watch this.
Yeah, we'll go right back.
How about the rest of you? Did you guys get to spend any time with your adult counterparts?
I remember I love John Ritter, and I'm so jealous he was talking to you. At one point, he did say, "Come hang out with us," because I was just like staring and listening to the conversation. But I love Three's Company. I love Night Court too. So I love Harry Anderson.
Yeah, that was amazing. So like the first time I went up, I thought I had 2 weeks, like Marlon, I had 2 weeks of school left, and I thought this was it. Great, you know. So flew to Vancouver. Walked out of school, see you suckers, you know, haha. Went up, they were shooting the exterior of Bev's house, where she almost gets hit by the bus or whatever. And so I did my wardrobe fitting on the street there in front of Bev's house and in the trailer. And I got my hair cut there while they were doing that, because Tommy Lee Wallace wanted me to have the haircut he had as a kid. So he was like, cut it this way, do this, do that. And then I got to meet John Ritter. So it was like day one, you know, I get to meet John Ritter, and Tommy had us, you know, hang out for a little bit and talk about, because at the time, I think they were afraid we looked the least alike compared to everyone else. So we had to figure out some mannerisms to do, things that we could do to kind of tie us together.
Like biting your nails, right? I remember you guys looking at your nails.
Yeah, exactly. So biting the nails, and I've never stopped, which is terrible.
I've noticed. I was going to bring that up.
Thanks, John. But it was so cool. I mean, he was so gracious, and he genuinely seemed interested in meeting me and kind of like passively giving me a really important acting lesson. So, I mean, that was awesome. And then we were done talking. They went back to shooting. I showed him Tetris, not on my Game Boy. Like, that was my contribution to him. It's Tetris. Of course, of course.
Game. Yeah.
Which it reminds me, Emily, that whole conversation we had a couple months ago about my mom teaching you about turkey sandwiches and your dad teaching me about, the virtues of pacifism and like actual history. And I come by it honestly. But then it was like, okay, so we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Wow.
What? So I ended up having to go back to school looking like a total liar.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but then it was cool. I was back up with the gang and met Jonathan Brandis. He kicked me off my favorite video game.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Adam, you had a chance to connect with Dennis recently. I'm kind of curious to hear what that experience was like for you to.
Oh, you were there. It was pretty great. Dennis is amazing, and it was really cool to see him. I mean, we only got to hang out a couple of times in the original. I remember meeting him once for something, and then the only other time was when I think there were like 5 of us there. I know Tim Reed wasn't, but I think there were like John Ritter was there and a few other people. And they were kind of all getting us together with our the children counterparts, and that was the first time I got to meet him.
He disappeared.
I muted Adam. He was boring.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't
Well
tell
done,
the story.
Thank you.
Oh, they
What
were
a waste of time.
Oh, why it stopped video?
Probably Dennis Christopher is just like, he's not going to tell the story.
Someone's got a kill switch on this thing, I'm telling you.
Emily, did you get a chance to spend some time with, is it Annette O'Toole?
Yeah,
Annette O'Toole?
Yeah.
Not really. It wasn't like a real conversation like Brandon got to have with John. It was just really quick, like, oh, hello, and like, oh yeah, we look pretty much the same, and that was kind of it, unfortunately. Because I love Annette. Like, I really admire her work. She's a great actress. So it would have been nice to spend a little bit more time with her, but that's just the way productions are, I think. Like, if you happen to be there at the same time as somebody else, then you get to hang out with them, and if not, then you don't really talk to them much.
Did you get to see or hang out with her later on in the years? Because I know she's done a lot of work in like Vancouver and stuff too. I think I gotta say that's where Smallville filmed. But
yes, you're right. That is where Smallville filmed. But I was never on Smallville, and so yeah, no, I never. Our paths were crossed again.
Wow, that's crazy. Well,
how about you, Ben? Did you spend any time with Richard Mazer?
Just a little bit, yeah. I mean, since he had a very small amount of screen time there in the film overall, there was really, he was never on set with him. But prior to filming, we were able to get together. We met at I think probably his hotel, in like the restaurant or whatever, and to just talk about the character, kind of like Brandon said, establish some behavior characteristic that would be shared, between the child and the adult. And so, I mean, yeah, definitely starstruck to go back to that question at that moment. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, just going on instinct, but had a really good conversation with him, and very memorable. And so I just, when he asked, what should we do? And then the ear thing was like the first thing that came to my mind, like instantly. And he liked it, and he said, "Okay, that's what we'll do." And that was that. I was like, "Wow, is that easy?" Okay.
It'd be funny if you guys all chose to chew your nails.
Like,
Nice. It'd be a syndrome. Yeah.
Like a Tucker movie, like an airplane.
Yeah.
This is like the constant fade away.
You want to move to the show and tell?
We could, yeah. I guess one last I wanted to ask is, you know, when you do watch the adult portion, is there any part of the film that like you kind of wish that you would be able to do those scenes? Like, you're like, man, that would have been fun. I mean, or is that, did you just not really, is that not register too much?
I haven't thought about it before, but
Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Thought the Chinese restaurant scene was always a scene that would have been fun to redo.
Yeah. That's pretty much I almost there's at one point I wanted to have everyone was going to see if everyone wanted to read from it. Then I was like, there's not enough dialogue actually, so it's kind of like, well, there goes that plan. So anyway, well, John, you have a show and tell session.
So should I show a couple of things? Just kind of nerd out here for a second for the fans. So obviously as a fan, you know, from early 90s, I've collected a lot of stuff and a lot of things have come to me over the years. So I think you guys have probably seen most of this stuff, but I thought people would enjoy seeing, you know, the It fanny pack from.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
Wow.
I'm sure you guys all got one, right?
Yeah, I got one.
I still have it, but I actually used it, and you can't see the It film crew anymore.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this you guys have seen too. This is a production cup that Tommy Lee Wallace had made for everybody.
I did not get one of those.
I was about to say, I don't think I got one of those.
You didn't get one?
Oh, I'm sorry you guys didn't get one.
Brandon and Adam and I didn't get
I'll
one.
send you mine. Anyway, you probably can't read it. It says, "Never a tougher picture, never a finer group. Sincere thanks, Tommy Lee Wallace."
Oh,
Nice.
Wow.
What else?
I feel like that might have been handed out at the premiere. I remember.
These are really obscure. So these were like placards that crew would have put on their dashboard when they were coming to every day.
How did you
get so they didn't get towed? This one belonged to the script supervisor. It's like super sun faded, and I don't know who.
I was just gonna say that shows who they allowed to park inside and who they let park outside. The caste system.
Two more quick things. This is kind of interesting. I've never seen another one of these. So this is the Betamax.
Oh, wow.
Get out of town.
Oh, wow.
From the Philippines. I don't know if you can see the glare, but kind of interesting.
There you go.
Olivia Hussey on the cover, which is a really unusual creative decision.
Designer like love Black Christmas. It's just like, you know.
It's fine too. Yeah. So I've never seen another one. It's kind of a neat.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Betamax.
Everything I ever did is on Betamax. So, for better or for worse, you know.
This is kind of interesting. So this was signed by John Ritter.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
So it's one of my favorite things. So he wrote Best Fishes. And circled his name on the back.
That's me.
Just in case you didn't know who he was. That's right.
Exactly. The last thing is really kind of interesting. So this was given to me by Jim Green, one of the producers.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's amazing. I took pictures.
Assistant after the
That's
came out,
cool as hell.
compile like as many reviews as they could find. And so all these colorful tabs are from the documentary, me kind of flagging what I wanted to scan. But it's basically like 500-600 pages of reviews from the US. Hold on, let's see if I can do this. And Canada. I mean,
all good ones, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's full of, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
That's dope.
So that's kind of interesting. And I flagged one article to show you guys I thought you'd get a kick out of. Hold on.
If it was like an Ace Ventura.
So this was from the Hamilton Spectator in Hamilton, Ontario. Right after the miniseries came out, they showed it to a bunch of kids to get their reaction because they had interviewed Richard Thomas and he said, "Oh, it's going to be safe to show your children. I'm going to show them." And so they showed it to like 7 or 8 kids and got their feedback on it. So it's a really funny article.
Awesome.
It's one of my favorites in the book. So
Adam Faraizl was listless. Is what
Yeah.
they said.
that's all I got to show.
Just kidding.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Hey, on the topic of things.
That's a jacket.
Oh, you found the jacket.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome.
I did.
Oh.
I checked. It still fits.
John, do you have a
What?
jacket?
What's that?
Do you have a
Still
jacket, John?
fits.
I do have a jacket.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have
No.
a jacket?
Sharp.
I don't have a jacket.
I will send you one.
I had one, but I don't
My
know where
mother
it went.
bought 4, so
Oh,
I have
wow.
4.
You still have
Thank
them.
you. Thank
What's
you.
that, Adam? Adam, did you say you have one or you don't?
I had one at some point because I remember wearing it, and then no one ever said anything about it. And then the one time I went to a movie, like a completely different movie premiere somewhere, someone recognized me in line and I wasn't even wearing anything from it. That's the only reason I know that I had a jacket at some point and no longer do.
Well, I will send you one as well. Because my mom, like, my parents are hoarders, so they bury stuff. Like, things are literally buried. So my mom finally found the old photos to send, so I could send them to John. And then she was like, "Oh, we have 4 jackets." I don't have 4.
And there's people on the street with none.
Exactly.
I like the idea of it like ending up in like Goodwill or something like that, like on the rack, and like someone just like jacket.
That'd be crazy.
Imagine if it was like a Pennywise costume, like a real one, and someone bought it. They had no idea that it, had Tim Curry's sweat and DNA in it.
But then they win as the Pennywise from like the 2017. They're like, oh, actually, it's the 2017 Pennywise. And it's like, no, you're actually there, you idiot. Well, that is fun. I love. There's a Twitter account. It's like movie promotional materials. It's like I think it like popped up for like maybe right before the pandemic or something like that. But like they always show that's like, here's what they gave out to Demolition Man, or like or to, the Flintstones movie, and it's like like a glass case or something like that, or like a mug, or like some of them are really creative, and I really wish that like more movies and TV shows today would do that, like where they got a little bit more into it. For like Weekend at Bernie's, there was like an inflate. Remember those like inflatable punching things that you could have that like you box with? They did that with Bernie. I was like, I would love to have this in my
Wow,
living.
yeah. That'd be awesome.
It'd be so much fun. But well, look, at the end of the day, it is pretty much all about friendship. And we do this podcast because we're friends. And we're literally doing this Zoom call because you're all friends. And what would you take away from it in this experience about friendship? And 30 years later, how would you define it now? In 2020.
I think we're a little bit closer now than we were back then, even though we're a little bit further away. I guess being adults, we have a little bit more control of what we do and where we go and who we talk to when and whatnot. But reconnecting ever since 2017, it's been just really cool, just kind of staying in contact with everybody. I think for me, that was the real like full circle come back around like since 1990, 89, since we went to the premiere and stuff. So I think now just getting to hang out with these guys and like living right up the street from Adam.
Yeah, hi. See, you're probably right over there. Yeah.
You probably throw a rock and hit my house. And, just being like a couple hours, 2.5 hours away, if they'd let me in Canada, I'd go see. I don't like Americans right now, so.
No.
Don't blame them.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
Unless you want to meet at the Peace Arch, we can go chit chat, on your side.
What about you, Ben? How about you?
Yeah, friendship definitely just in my personal life, super important to me, always has been. I'm lucky to have friends that I've known nearly my entire life. And then to, partway through that, be able to grow new friendships with the people we're here with right now and still have a chance to, unexpectedly reconnect in a way and then, just rekindle that friendship is I really cherish that. And, just, I just think friendship is really important. And I'm thankful to have the friends I have and be here with you guys.
How about you, Emily?
Well, this reunion over the last couple of years has really come at a hard time in my life. And I've been going through a divorce and career change and just so many things going on. And so it's been actually really awesome. It really feels like I'm part of the losers club, and it's fine that I'm a loser in real life. Yeah, not to but
you're not a loser in real life.
Yeah. Come on. Even though I did have somebody poop to their pants yesterday in kindergarten, and I had to clean it up.
Oh gosh.
That's
wow.
It's kindergarten is very rewarding, let me tell you. But just it's been amazing to reconnect with everyone and see familiar faces again and feel like you're part of the gang.
Cool.
Adam.
Brandon. No.
Got me. Okay.
You want to fight?
Yeah. let's digitally fight for it.
That's what friends do.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's my best friends that I've had throughout my life have always been ones that I can kind of pick up with where I've left off. Because when you grow up, you get old, you have your own life to live, you have your own things to do, and you can't always be in someone's ear every day. Hey, what are you up to? Well, the same thing yesterday. I had to go to work. What did you have to? Well, I also had to go to work. Yeah, it was a good conversation. Bye. So it's those people that one of my high school friends that I haven't seen in 5 or 6 years. I can meet them again and be like, oh, pick up right where we left off. And that was kind of what happened when we all finally met up again. And there's every chance that given how young we were when we met and the different paths we went on, one of us could have been a real jerk, and it turned out to be none of us. So that was Brandon, but but no, it's been awesome.
Someone has to do it.
But no, it's been amazing to be able to do something such a long time ago and then have it sort of organically reform and have us all be able to reconnect in this way. It's been awesome.
Yeah. But can I say really quick though, just before we lose that point, because I really appreciate that John Campopiano has a lot to do with that too.
Absolutely.
He was like the Mike Hanlon of today.
Yes.
Calling everybody, be like, you're gonna be there.
Yes.
But anyway, so yes, thank you, John.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, it's like what I said last week,
how
time is in a vacuum. When we did Atlanta, it was Marlon. I saw Marlon for the first time in 27 years. We picked up like we said, right where we left off, which is crazy. And every time John hits us with a new factoid or some information comes back to light in a panel or something, it all floods back. And these people are easily some of my favorite humans because we spent not just a summer together like people do at camp. We spent a concentrated working summer together. And we accomplished something that people still give a shit about 30 years later. And that's amazing, the way I see it. So we'll always have this bond. And if I do live up to the jerk thing, it's great to know that they'll still accept me with open arms. Please accept me with open arms.
You could see the chemistry here. It's so palpable, and we're on Zoom, and so there's really no way to touch it. And you feel it's just alive, and it's wild. But that is special, and I can see that, and I think that's ultimately been one of the most rewarding things the last 2 calls. It's just been able to see you all just kind of react and make jokes and batter, and it's God, I hope it's like that quote from What Stand By Me, where it's do we ever have friends like you had when you were 12 years old? And it's clearly no. This is something special.
Brandon, can I put you on the spot really quick? You have a great story about seeing Tim Curry again years later.
Oh yeah.
Could
Thanks, John.
No.
it's around that time, actually. I'll try and make this quick. I just got my equity card. So I was doing some musicals and that's a nighttime thing. Rehearsals usually at night. So I was a messenger during the day. So I'm sitting in like Century City waiting for my next dispatch. And I got a text on the pager that said, Tim Curry, pick up, deliver to BDO Seidman. Do not disturb occupant. I'm like, the Tim Curry? Like, wait, that couldn't possibly be. So I drive up into Hollywood Hills, and as I get closer, I start thinking, wait a minute, why do not disturb occupant? It has to be the Tim Curry. So, I get there, and I had to disturb Tim Curry. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't, of course, I'm going to knock on the door. So I knock on the door, and she opens the door, and she's like, it's in the mailbox. I said, yeah, I know, but are we talking the Tim Curry? Like Pennywise Tim Curry? And his wife goes, oh my God, Tim! So it was super cool. Invited me in, we got to chat for a little while and talk about old times, and he pretended to care enough to make me feel to make me feel like remembered, and then I went my separate ways. But that was super cool. And shortly after, I got a signed tin of Spam. He did Spam a lot, and it was even cooler that he remembered who I was when he personalized it for me. Like I wasn't there. A friend of mine saw it, and that was cool. I mean, so he's way more down to earth than you would expect someone of that stature.
Yeah. Well, this has been so fun. Thank you guys so much for making the time again. But I think it's going to be an excellent two-part panel.
Yeah, so. And I think it's fitting.
Yeah,
chapter one,
to
chapter two. We actually have a sign-off on the Losers Club pod where we'll say long days, and then the guests say pleasant nights. So would you want to take part in that to close us all out?
Sure.
All right. Well, this has been an unreal experience and one that I'll remember for long days.
Pleasant
nights. Thank you guys
so much.
This was a blast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.